Imagine you're out walking the dog, carrying your shopping home, or even just enjoying a hot drink, and suddenly you're under threat. What can you do? In today's episode, we're talking about something that could make all the difference: improvised weapons. These are everyday items you already have in your hands or around you, and with the right mindset, they can become powerful tools for self-defense. Welcome to Self-Defense for Women, Live an Empowered Life, the podcast that helps you stay safe, feel strong, and take control of your personal security, both physically and emotionally. I'm Julie Waite, Women's Self-Defense Advocate, and alongside me is Dene Josham, Self-Defense Instructor with 30 years experience and former bodyguard of Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt and Russell Crowe. Together we're here to share real-world strategies, expert insights and practical tips to help you build confidence, set boundaries and navigate the world with strength. Just before we start, we have a small request. If you find our podcast helpful, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. We're a new podcast and it really helps us reach more women like you. So let's start by just understanding what an improvised weapon is. I think sometimes you'd hear the word weapon and you think, oh, what does that mean? I'm carrying a gun or a knife, but it's an improvised weapon. So can you just explain what that is to us?
Yeah, an improvised weapon is an everyday object that is obviously accessible to you that you could potentially use as a weapon to defend yourself. There's always that little bit of confusion. Like an everyday object, for one example, is a pen. I could use that as a weapon as it is. But if I modified that by, say, I put masking tape around it so I could get a really good grip, or I sharpen the end, and I've actually modified it to be a weapon with the intention to use it as a weapon. But if that's just a pen laying around and someone was attacking me and I just picked it up and I used it, then that is an improvised weapon.
Yeah, and just to be clear that if you were to modify it, that then certainly in the UK would not be legal to use. So improvised weapon, It is legal. So if you was to pick up going with the pen example, if you was to pick up a pen and use that to defend yourself, then that would be legal. Like if you did what Dean had said in terms of like sharpening it up or putting tape on it, that is not legal because it's not improvised anymore. It's then it's adapted. So just wanted to get that clear from the outset. Okay, so let's break this down into some different environments and we'll give some examples of improvised weapons. We're going to look at 3 different environments. We're going to look at like out and about on the street. We're going to look at using improvised weapons in situations such as a terror attack. And we're going to look at using them in the home if you're being attacked in your home. And then at the end, we'll give some advice on how to use them effectively and how you can start to think about them as part of your self-defense strategy. So, Dean, could you give us some examples of items that you could use if you're out and about, walking along, that you might be able to use to defend yourself?
Yeah, it's just looking at yourself, what you carry, what is on your person's. Big example, isn't it, is keys. Everyone always carries keys. You know, they're a great thing you could use as an improvised weapon. You know that key there, imagine that on soft tissue, the kind of damage that could create. It's not very nice, but that's the reality. Again, a pen. When I used to do the bodyguarding stuff, when we were down in London, I know some of the guys used to carry a pen, but it was a metal pen, and I'd have it in their pocket, in the jean pocket, because obviously in the UK, private security, you're not allowed to carry any kind of firearms or weapons or anything like that. But some of the guys would carry a metal pen, just a normal pen, not a Coubertin or a baton or anything like that. It was just a pen, and the reason they carried that because they realised that in a situation, that was something that might be able to help them if they needed that.
Okay. I just want, before we kind of give some more examples, you picked up the keys there and it just made me think, so many women have asked us this, and I know I have, I don't know when this has been taught to people. It seems to be some kind of subconscious thing that women, all women I know seem to know this, but they know the wrong way of carrying keys. So we always get asked this, can you show us the wrong way of carrying keys? It's kind of like the channeling the inner Wolverine by like getting there. Can you just demonstrate the wrong way to use keys?
Do you know what personally?
I don't know where it comes from.
Personally, what I think it is because most people think a physical response is a punch. So
Right.
hence people always say to me, oh yeah, you carry your keys and you do this and you put them between your
But
knuckles
people
like
think,
that.
yeah, I think they have
Yeah,
like a key, and I have
yeah,
done that in like before I knew what I know now.
yeah,
I would walk along with the keys. You know, if I'm walking home at night or something, I'd walk
yeah,
along with the keys, and it's
yeah,
actually quite difficult to get the keys in that position,
yeah,
and it feels like they're going to drop and fall out, or not even
yeah,
be straight. So, even before I knew what I know now, there was kind of like a little question mark in my head going, is this really going to work?
yeah,
But do you want to tell us why that wouldn't work and then show us,
yeah,
obviously, or describe? Some people will see this on YouTube and can watch it.
sure.
For those that are listening, it's the wrong way is to have like two or three keys between each finger and
Yeah,
make a fist and go to punch with it. That's the wrong way
yeah.
because
There's a better way. I'm not going to say anything's wrong because
right, okay,
someone did that and it worked great. Don't dismiss
okay,
anything. But
yeah.
from having it like that, that is actually with intention as well because you wouldn't naturally carry your keys like that. So if you did have to go
Just
to
describe it, yeah.
Yeah, if you did have to go to court, you've got your keys in between your fingers and you've made a fist, a bit like a Wolverine hand,
Yeah.
a bit like that. So, and I think that comes from, people thinking you have to punch to defend yourself, when reality is most people aren't comfortable with punching. Obviously, you've got to be a bit more trained in that. It's more natural and more easier to hold it, like for people who can't see, like you're going to put it into your uh, key in the house. You
Yeah.
get it between your thumb and
You've just
forefinger, and
got
you go,
one key
yeah,
in your
one
hand.
key
Yeah.
in your hand. So for people who can see, all my other keys would be grasping my hand. I've got my main key that I'm going to go into my house or my car, and I hold it within my thumb and forefinger like that. Because also, I've got more control over that. I can move
Yeah.
it, and also I can
You
conceal
can
it.
jab with it. Yeah, you could hide
Yeah,
it. You could jab
you
into
can
the soft
rake.
tissue
Yeah,
areas
you can
of the
rake the
face and the
face, the throat,
the
anything like
throat.
that. Also, because you can't really see it there, and if I'm walking along, I've got it concealed. If somebody was to jump out on me and attack me, then that's going to have more effect, in my opinion, because it's not seen. So, you imagine somebody grabs you, you flail, you got your keys in your hand, and you rake that key down somebody's face. Then it's going to have more impact because that person goes, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah.
If you're walking around like this, like out in front of you like a weapon,
Yeah.
that people are going to see that. So deception in that element works in our favor, so we can conceal it, and it's a natural way we carry our keys. And also, like I said a minute ago, you've got more movement, you're more
Yeah.
control over it rather than put it in between your knuckles.
And I think the thing with punching, and this is something we talk about in our training, is we don't teach any punching in our self-defense training for a number of reasons. One being that you can very easily damage your hand. Two being that it's just not impactful enough to cause damage, even if you've got some keys between your hands. Thinking of myself as a woman,
Yeah.
you know, I've done a bit of, boxing with you, but I can't strike hard enough to cause damage on someone. So it's just not going to be an effective way to use the key, trying to punch at someone with a key. But if
Yeah.
like you said, if you've got the key, one single key in your hand, and you can jab and go for like the throat, the eyes, the soft tissue, the groin areas, then that is generally going to be a more effective way to use it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's looking at the dynamics and the actual physical motion of it and breaking it down slowly so you can go, well, what is going to work and what's going to be more effective and what's more realistic between whoever we're training, and it's different for men, different for different genders, different for women. And it's looking at that realistically as well. And we're not training fighters. We're training to be able to do a physical response to get away.
Survive.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
survive. Yeah. And that's the end goal is survival, get back to the people we love and care
Yeah.
for, not be a black belt or a ninja or a UFC fighter.
In my mind, with the boxing thing, I've always thought, the boxing is a sport, and you see
Yeah.
a boxing match, and you see guys that are trained and can take a lot of punches from someone who is
Yeah.
a really, really good hitter. So if they can take all them punches,
Yeah.
then someone like me who's not trained in punching, I'm not going to make much impact with a couple of punches on someone. And that's why we train like a different approach about learning the body's vulnerabilities and then targeting those. And then this with the improvised weapons is kind of like taking that in a slightly different direction if you've got something on you that you can use.
Also, the women that I've trained with, some high elite women, UK champions, world champions, they're phenomenal as well. But for the sort of, not the average person, but the normal person, it's not realistic. And like you said, then it's a combat sport, a form of violence, yes, but we're talking about real things in a real world that really work for everybody.
Yeah. So getting back to the improvised weapons, we've said the keys, pens or pencils, things like if you've got like a hard water bottle or a flask.
Yeah, anything.
If you're carrying that, it's like if you've gone out running or you're walking along and you've got that, or it's kind of easily accessible on the in the side pocket of your bag.
Yeah.
Something like that can work.
Your belt. What about your belt?
If you wear a belt, I mean, obviously you've got to get it off. Then that's a bit of a fiddly bit, but
of course.
Dog leads is one, and I saw something in the news, must be within the last year, of a woman who a man attacked her by knife point in a park and started to sexually assault her. She had a dog lead. I'm assuming her dog was off lead running around somewhere. She had a dog lead in her hand and she swung it at him as a weapon. It's just what she had to hand. She swung it at him, hit him with it, and he actually ran off and didn't complete the assault. So
Brilliant.
Wow. I know myself as a dog walker, the end of the lead, that metal bit of the lead, if you're swinging that around, that could do some damage. Good on her for thinking to do that in the moment. But if you've got a bit of head start by thinking about this now, that kind of helps you a bit more.
And also how much strength, if you've got a dog lead, there's a bit of weight on there, like you said, the end bit's metal, how much physical strength you can swing that around. And if you did catch somebody in the facial area, and you caught them in the eye, that's going to cause a lot of problems, a lot of damage, potentially giving you the chance to get away.
So, and then if you're wearing heels, then that's something that you could think about as well as an improvised weapon. Yeah,
I mean, that just reminds me of the 80s and 90s when I used to do security on pubs and clubs. And I have seen it where and this is social violence, so it could have been avoided, where two guys have been fighting and one of the girlfriends have took their stiletto shoes off, and started hitting the guy with it.
Right.
So, where, depending on obviously what's going on, would you have that time to get your shoe off? It depends. That's one of those big topics where you really dive into it. You could be on the floor. Your shoe might have come off. It might be there. You might be able to grab it and then use that stiletto or that shoe, depending how that shoe looks and what it is, to whether that be effective, and it might help you.
Yeah. So it's really just, I think it's starting to get that mindset of just noticing things around you and what you could use when you're out and about. What you could use.
Yeah. Thinking a bit differently on your environment and what's accessible to you.
Yeah. Hot drinks as well, if you're walking along. Everyone's walking along with a coffee these days, me included. So it'd be, you could flip the lid off that and throw that in someone's face. Yeah,
the Costa coffee, and this is no advertising for them, but like a Costa coffee something, you've got a hot cup and they're quite squeezy, aren't they? You could soon pop the top and do that. There's that as well.
Okay, so the other scenario that we get asked about is what to do in a terror attack, in I guess specifically a knife attack. I mean, a lot of these cases, your best scenario in the advice is to run and hide. But if you are in a situation where you can't run and hide, for example, you're trapped in a shopping centre or you're trapped in a cafe, or there's something happening that it's going to impact on you and you have to do something. Yeah. Then there is a case for using improvised weapons here, and the London Bridge knife terror attack was something where people did use improvised weapons to bring the attacker down. Yeah,
people got involved because bystanders, and they wanted to help. And I've just pulled it up on there, and it says, during the London Bridge terror attack, bystanders used a variety of improvised weapons to subdue the attacker. These included, and if I say this right, gnarled tusks, NARWHAL, tusks, a chair, a fire extinguisher, and an ornamental pike. There you go.
That's some
That's some
interesting
random
things that
stuff.
people add on them, but
Yeah.
whatever you've got,
I've seen that with a guy with a tusk, and it was a distancing thing, and he was using it to keep that distance, obviously, from getting to him and whoever. And like you said, you know, if you're in a cafe or a shop or something, you know, using that environment as well. You know, improvised weapons, but also using things like he did there for distance, to keep that distance. Could it be
flip the table over?
Yeah, could be a table.
Pick
That
up a chair.
Blocked something. You
use the
put
chair
an obstacle in a way, or like a chair or something that, you know,
hold that up to keep them back.
A bit like someone's got, you know, got a knife. Can you use that chair to, you know, keep them back?
Yeah, yeah, and I think no one can tell anyone else how to react in these kind of situations, and if you kind of run and hide, then that's what you need to do. If you feel like you want to go and try and help to bring the person down, then you know, generally it needs a group of people, I think, to do it, to take on someone like that. But
strength in numbers.
I think fire extinguishers are a good one if you can actually activate it and spray it in their face, or use it as a blunt weapon.
Yeah, definitely. I just looked at a bit I didn't read at the end, and it said these they use these objects to distract the attacker, blind him, and keep him at bay until the police arrived. So yeah, like in a fire extinguisher, you know, you can imagine, depending on what it is, if it's you know, a powder extinguisher, obviously, you know, that's going to, in the eyes, it could potentially work against their breathing, like you said, and a blunt object,
and just distract them while someone else then, you know, might be able to get in and do something to take them down.
Things I've seen, and you know, like there's probably a lot of videos out there as well that I've looked at, and probably other people listening have, and then you see something like that, and one person gets involved, and suddenly another person, and then they swarm. You know, one goes in there, and as soon as that person's engaged with that person, then there's 2 or 3 people, 4, 5, 6, and they swarm, and they, you know, come in and pin down and restrain. So yeah, and also maybe in that situation, if he was to get involved, is to look around, who's around you, who can engage with you, go, right, are we going to do this? Are we coming together as a team? And right, you know, like the London Bridge thing, you can imagine, guy picked up that, the other guy had the fire extinguisher, and they're all looking at each other going, right, we're going to try and, you know, get this guy under control. Yeah.
Then things like if you've got bag or coat, even, like, it depends. Like, could you, for example, if you had a thick coat, could you wrap it around your arm, you know, to try and like protect yourself if someone's, you know, coming at you in like a knife attack situation, you're trying to defend yourself. It depends what kind of personality you are as to, you know, are you the person that's going to get up and go and try and take them down? You know, are you just like, are you scared and you just want to try and like get a bag in front of yourself, or what have you got that can help, you know, put a barrier between you and them?
This is one of the uncomfortable things, like I always say to people, is you've got to look at it and analyse it before anything ever happens. So we'd look in a situation like, you go, obviously you need to know yourself, what am I prepared to do or not do? If that's running away, that's fine. You know, there's no shame in that. And there's, you know, you're doing you're looking after you. If it is to get involved, depending on why they're attacking you or whoever, do I get a chance to get my coat off around my arm? Or is it better that I try and run or run around a car? So it's looking at it really analytical to go, okay, depending on where you are, what's going on, then what could I do? Could I use my bag? You know, could I use that to block, or, you know, and then also it's being realistic to go, it's good to think about these, and that really helps us and benefits us, but practice as well, kind of like pressure testing them, or just how would that actually work? Because sometimes when we think about things, they're very different from actually doing them in the physical world.
Yeah. So then we've got another scenario, which is in the home.
Yeah.
This would be where someone has broken into your home and is trying to attack you. And this could be a burglar that's decided they are going to go physical to try and, for whatever the reason they might have, try and get you to show them where a safe is or whatever it is. It could be a stalker that's broken into your house and is trying to attack you. It could be an abusive ex or like a domestic abuse incident. But we just want to be clear and make a distinction between, if someone breaks into your home, then the best thing to do is to avoid confrontation with them. So get to a safe room, or get to a room where you can lock the door and call the police. Maybe make some noise so that they know that you're aware, but try not to confront them.
I think this is a big one as well, and I always try and discuss this because, you know, your home is your castle and that, and, you know, I hope there's guys watching this as well. And it's like that reality is like, if I'm upstairs with my family and somebody is downstairs and they've broken in, am I going to go downstairs? Well, reality is the most important thing is my family and myself. They can take it for me. They can take the car. They can take everything. They can take the whole house. Who cares? I can replace it. You know, insurances. Or if I can't, I'm still alive. My family's still alive. If I go downstairs, then I could escalate that situation. That person, for whatever reasons, is in there. You know, it could be somebody who might be a drug addict who needs a laptop for their next hit. You know, they're quite desperate. And imagine I come downstairs face to face with a person, you know, if they are a drug addict and they're struggling, and I look at them and catch each other's eye, and I'm like, look, take the laptop, do whatever you want, but just please go. I will not tell the police. I've got insurance. I'm not going to tell anybody. Just go. Are they going to believe me? Or have I just scaled it up because that person there could be on probation? And then he's thinking, well, you're going to identify me because you're going to go straight to the police. And then all of a sudden I've upped it from, he just wanted my laptop, to actually he might want to stop me because I can identify him now. And if I identify him, he might be going, or he or she or who might be going back to prison for the next 4 or 5 years. So it's like, hang on a minute, what's my priority? My family and my safety, not my laptop. Yeah, I know it's my house and that. I'm not, you know, of course, pride and all that, yes. But we're talking about what's really important.
And I think, so when we talk about improvised weapons now in the home, this is if someone is trying to attack you.
Yeah,
So
and also,
it's slightly different. It's slightly different. So if you can avoid confronting whoever's in your home, if you can get to a safe room, call the police, that's great. If then, for example, they're trying to get into the safe room, or they're not there to burgle the house, they're there to hurt you.
Yeah, that's different.
Then that is when you then could bring in improvised weapons in the home, and there's actually loads of things in the home that you could use.
Just before we go on from that, it's one of those ones where I think it's important as well. You need to have an open conversation with the people in your house. Okay, look at what happens if somebody did break in. What are we all going to do? Even down to like, what happens if the fire alarm goes off at 2 a.m? Because that's a personal safety issue. And just make sure everybody's on the same page. So if that was ever to happen, which God forbid, I hope it doesn't, you all know what you're going to do, and you're going to work together as a team or as a partnership or whatever. Or if you're on your own, you thought about it, you go, right, I'm going to lock my door and barricade it. But if they are going to come and physically try and hurt you, then obviously what can you use around you? What is accessible to us?
Yeah. So I think, you know, if you're upstairs in your bedroom, then there's the classic kind of keeping the baseball bat under the bed. And I know a lot of people do that, or the cricket bat. And I just had a quick look online before to see, you know, what is like looking for legal instances of where this has happened. I found a fairly recent one. The headline was I can't even read it. Judge backs baseball bat beating of burglar. That's a classic news headline, isn't it? But the story behind that was that a burglar had broken in, and the guy had attacked and defended himself. I don't think the burglar was actually attacking him. I think he was near him, and he said, I was scared that he was going to hit me. So he hit him first with the baseball bat, and he actually did quite a lot of damage, but the judge backed the homeowner, and the burglar got, I think, a year. Now, a lot of this will depend on the judge in the court, and a different judge might have seen that differently and might have said, you've gone too far and you didn't have to do that. But again, we'll talk separately on the legal part of it, but it's just making sure that if there are things lying around and you feel under threat, you are able to use them.
Yeah, I suppose, I know we're going to touch on legal, but it's why it's in my head. It's like, you got a baseball bat there, you know, lucky. That was pretty lucky the guys didn't, what the judge ruled on that, because it could have gone the other way. And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've still got to stay safe. So whatever you deem necessary is necessary in your mind, and you have to defend that potentially in the court of law.
And when you've
So
got
it's
adrenaline,
difficult.
it's in the middle of the night, you've got adrenaline
Yeah,
going.
wow, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
When you sit down and discuss it like now, you think,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe he didn't have to use the baseball bat. But if it was the middle of the night and there's a guy in your house and you don't know what is going on, then I think
Adrenaline,
it's difficult,
fear.
isn't it?
Yeah, the adrenaline, fear takes over. You don't know what, if you can't work out why they're in there, and then you go into pure survival mode, which is understandable. You might just go, I'm a baseball bat. Yeah, I want to just. Is he come there to kill me or what? I don't know.
I mean, legally, you're supposed to act reasonably proportionate, and it needs to be it's like necessary, reasonable, proportionate. Those are kind of the main criteria that they use. Yeah. So. And that's very, very, very subjective from one individual to the next.
Massive.
But we always say the most important thing is that you come out of that situation safe, and then you have to deal with the legal consequences afterwards. And that's your judgment as to what you do in the moment.
Yeah.
You'd hope that as a good kind of law-abiding citizen, your response is going to just automatically be proportionate, but adrenaline can affect things.
Yeah.
So, you can use improvised weapons in the home to defend yourself. Having things like the baseball bat, the cricket bat. If you were in the kitchen and someone's trying to attack you in the kitchen, obviously there's a lot of things there. Knife, rolling pin, pan. There's loads DIY things that you've got you might have lying around, a hammer, a screwdriver. There's loads of different things you could use in the home.
Yeah, you could use just nearly anything if you got sort of a little bit creative with how you'd use that.
Yeah. So it's not a nice topic to talk about or think about. None of this stuff is.
None of the physical ever is.
No.
None of it is.
And that's why when we teach self-defense in our workshops and our online courses, the physical is always the last element, and we spend so much time on like awareness and prevention, because there is an awful lot you can do there.
Nobody wins, do they? There's no good outcome in any physical response, even if you walk away without a scratch on you, because it's traumatic. You could have hurt somebody else, which if they're viewed as a bad person, you might be okay with that, but again, it's not nice. None of it's nice.
But it's necessary. You do need to know these things, because this stuff happens all the time. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in at the moment. And if you do want to, we've just got a few more bits. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you about how to use improvised weapons most effectively. But if you do want to take a look at our self-defense training, our online courses, we've got a fantastic course called 7 Day Self-Defense for Women, and that's where you learn over the course of 7 days. You learn, it's such a big program. You learn loads. You learn all the prevention and you learn the physical, and there's over an hour of physical demonstrations, videos showing like how to get out of strangulation, hair grabs, if you're pinned on the floor, if someone's got a bag on your head, all those different things. We've got all the prevention as well, and awareness, and getting the right mindset, understanding different types of violence. So there's loads in there, and it's about an hour a day over 7 days, and it's really empowering, and it's really changes your view on like how powerful you are.
Yeah,
so
it's a life
take
skill,
a look at that.
Yeah, it's a life skill that we all need, and obviously it's great that we can share that, and also anybody who does that can share that onto people around them, kids, family members, partners, whoever it is. And also just like Julie sort of hand holds you through that process day by day and breaks it down, which I think is it's evolved into what it is now, and it's very it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And as a podcast listener, you can get 25% extra discount using the code podcast25. So we'll link that below. So just a few tips on how to use an improvised weapon most effectively. Where should people be aiming for, Dean, if they've got the pen or the keys or the baseball bat, whatever it is? How can they do the most damage, I guess.
Well, like we always say, you know, if in that situation where it's extreme and you're physically in harm's way, then it's soft tissue area because of how much and how quickly you can cause damage that can potentially help you get a chance to get away. You know, when you start looking at baseball bat, things like that, for me, not trying to go too much into it, but a baseball bat is, are you strong enough to swing it? If somebody blocks it, okay, that could be a block. And then as soon as that distance is closed down from, you know, the distance where you can swing it and they're close enough, you can't really swing it to any, to any effectiveness. So it's looking at, I've got a baseball bat. It's like, all right, you've probably got one swing hit if that person runs at you. And so it's looking at it a little bit, take your time to look and go, what would be really effective? But definitely the soft tissue area because, you know, like we talk about in the course, if somebody's, you know, 6'6", 20 stone on steroids and on drugs, you know, you think a punch or a kick's going to stop him. It might do, but you're going to have to be pretty good and you know, so it's like, okay, what damage can I cause that person to create that chance, or it might be to even shut the system down, to interfere with how the body works, to chance to get away. Hence why we're not martial arts focused, because there's other elements we have to consider.
So it's, when you talk about soft tissue areas, it's eyes, throat, groin,
all this kind of head,
all the squishy stuff.
You know, it doesn't take a genius to work out what soft tissue areas are going to be very effective when you look at what the body is like and where the vulnerabilities are.
It doesn't matter how strong someone is, their eyes aren't ever going to be any stronger than your eyes.
No.
Then, like, I was just thinking about what you said there with the baseball bat.
Yeah.
And coming back to our training, when we do the training, we always say that your hands are the most effective weapons that you've got, and we stand by that. And the mind, we stand by that. This is like a side topic of improvised weapons. So you'd be kind of case of using both. So I mean, like the baseball bat situation, it might be more of like a position, like a standoff thing. If you've got the baseball bat, it makes you look and feel more powerful. You might, like you said, you might get one swing out of it, and if then you're close up to them, that's when you'd go to your hands and be doing like the different strategies that we teach.
It could be someone. It's a bit like somebody said to me, "I've got my golf club," and I was like, "Great, have you got enough room to swing it? How big is it?" I'm like, "How big's your house?" You know, depending where you are, you go, okay, that could be a distance thing. You know, you could keep a distance and like, you know, right, go, leave me, you know,
threatening,
threatening, super aggressive, whatever, because you don't want to go physical, but you've got that there. But realizing chances are you've probably got one swing with that, and then you're going to be up close. Forget that.
Something like the pen or the keys, you could get that would be up close, and you could get more kind of damage with that if you manage to keep hold of it and you don't drop it. If you're shaking, you know, that's one thing. If you are a bit shaky and you drop it, it's remembering then you've still got your hands, you're able to scratch, claw.
I think as well, not being solely focused like, oh, I've got my scissors or I've got my pen. It's like, oh, I've dropped it. It's like, okay, it's gone. You know, and realizing as well, it is, you know, physical confrontation is horrible. It's up close and personal. It's not nice. It's horrible. So it's like realizing the reality as well. That's why we're all like avoid. But if you can't, you have to prepare psychologically as well that, you know, it is a physical battle, and it could be a fight for your life. So for me, making the mindset as well and realizing that to go, why? Family, friends, people I love, care, my dog, my cat.
Just a quick note on carrying actual weapons. Depending on where you are in the world, will depend on the legality of carrying weapons. Here in the UK, you can't carry weapons. So, we're talking about improvising everyday items. We're not talking about carrying a knife or anything like that. That's not legal. And if you are in a country where it's legal to carry a weapon, I guess that's a whole other topic, but
massive,
you need to make sure you're very well trained in that and practice regularly with that for it to be effective. Not just like getting something, putting it in the drawer, and then never thinking about it again.
And also, you know, like I know in America, obviously they can carry weapons, and it's all right going down on a range and practicing. But when you're under pressure and stuff, you know, with stuff I've done over my security career, and that, you know, realizing how much distance do you actually need to pull out a weapon, draw it, discharge it, fire it, whatever you want to call it, and how quick that distance can shut down. And then you're adrenalized, you're under pressure, everything like that. You know, so out on a range when things pop up and you go bang bang, but you know, hit the targets. But when somebody's screaming, running at you with a knife, and you're trying to get your weapon out, it's like so it's pressure testing it as well, realizing, you know, using it under a bit of duress, you know, in a safe environment where you know you're safe, but pressure testing it to be adrenalized, to be under that time restraint of somebody running at you and you think, oh, I've got to use this or use that.
Okay. So we've covered a lot there, a lot to think about. Yeah. We always like to give you some actions to take away to put this into practice, make it practical in your life. So first off, how about just taking a look around where you are now and thinking, what could I use? If something happened right now, what could I use? And then thinking about your different environments. If I'm in the car, what could I use? When I'm walking to work, when I'm in my home, wherever it might be, and just getting into that frame of mind of just noticing things and then thinking, right, okay, I could use this or that. And it's in there then if you ever need it. It's kind of like in the back of your mind.
And it's not to rely on them. It's just like an added extra.
It's an extra thing that you could use. Then maybe even practice gripping your keys. So if you've always been of the mindset, this kind of self-defense urban myth that you carry your keys like Wolverine, like I used to, try holding it in a different way. And maybe just try that as you're walking along. You might have your hand in your pocket, and maybe just try holding your key in that way and see how it feels, or a pen. And then the third thing really is just to remember that like confidence and mindset is so important, and you don't have to rely on improvised weapons. You've got your hands, you've got your mindset, and those are enough to defend yourself. These are like an added extra, an added bonus that you might use.
Yeah, I think it's a topic that always comes up, so it's nice to cover it and try and expand on that to give people our viewpoint on it.
Okay, so if you enjoyed the podcast, we would love it if you could give us a review. If you're on Apple, Spotify or Amazon Music, then subscribe, and then you'll see our podcasts popping up every week. Take a look at our online courses. The 7-day self-defense for women course is just full of information and detail like this that really helps you learn how to protect yourself and look after each other and stay safe.
Can I say as well, please share this with other people, you know, other women, whether, you know, you're a man on air with family members, other people in your community. Please share this to help other people as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you next time.